So there's been a lot of talk right now about the WrestleMania Night 1 main event. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I made a video on it on my main channel where I kind of spoke a little bit more in depth about the report that came out. And essentially what that report was that WWE was going to go ahead with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair being the Night 1 main event for WrestleMania 39. Now, on paper, I think a lot of people will agree that this match will probably deliver, maybe even over-deliver to a certain extent. And I think a lot of people could agree that these two people are definitely talented enough to hold down the biggest slot for WrestleMania, which is obviously main eventing the first night. And that's a very big task at hand, but I think a lot of people have confidence in that. And I for certain believe that they will do an amazing job if this is in fact happening. However, there is a little bit of an issue here because there's a lot of people who have an issue with the booking of this match, and largely due to the WWE's lack of building an exciting build for this particular match, which honestly I actually agree with. And I kind of spoke about this in my previous video on my main channel where I said, yeah, you know, the build hasn't been that exciting, and maybe WWE made the wrong choice in the sense that Rhea Ripley should have gone after Bianca Belair and Asuka could have competed against Charlotte. Now, I would have been totally okay with that if they had flip-flopped on it, because I think Bianca and Rhea Ripley being on Raw, it just would have been very entertaining in my opinion. I also really like what they've done with Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley as a whole, and I feel like the storytelling could have been a little bit better in that regard. But nonetheless, WWE didn't make that choice. They cannot go back now. They cannot turn down what they've already done, right? They can't go back on their word. They've already committed to this. There's no way they're going to be able to pivot away from it. So the issue here is not necessarily that WWE is going to have Charlotte and Rhea main event. I don't think anybody genuinely has a problem with those two main eventing. I think everybody has a genuine problem with the way the story has actually been built up to be the main event match. Now, the thing is, there's a ton of talk about this, and this is where things get a little bit more interesting too, because there is this rumor, there is this report that's come around that perhaps maybe WWE actually isn't going along with this, and maybe Meltzer's report is inaccurate, which if that is the case, that would also make a lot of sense too. So I don't want to say anything is for certain, but I do believe to a certain extent, WWE is going to put themselves in a very, very, very tricky situation that they can't get out of if they do not immediately start building this matchup the right way. Now, I believe WrestleMania will do very well. I think it will over-deliver. I think there should be a lot of confidence in the WWE to deliver a great pay-per-view. But right now, there is very few stories that seem to have a proper build. One in particular that's done very good is Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio. I think you can also throw Edge and Finn Balor in the mix. I think the Usos and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn potentially being a massive one as well. I think that's a really good storyline. And then obviously we got to talk about Cody Rhodes and Roman because that match is also very big. But I think WWE has maybe 4 or 5 really, really good stories being built. And when you look at Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, there is not the same level of, I want to say effort. Maybe it's not the right way to phrase it, but I think there is a little bit more effort going into some of these other stories than this particular story, which is unfortunate because I am very happy to see Rhea Ripley in this zone where she can be delivering really big things. You know what I mean? And I feel like when I say that, I mean it in a good way. Like, she is delivering great content to WWE's television. She's also been a really good part and a big focal point of the Judgment Day storyline and the faction. And I think if you don't have Rhea Ripley in that group, I don't think the group actually succeeds, to be honest with you. I think the reason why it's so entertaining is because the dynamic between Priest, Balor, Dominic, and Rhea, they actually have something that works really well, which is so strange considering all of their backgrounds are so incredibly different. But I just love the fact that they're together. So again, I got to reiterate, I don't think there's an issue with Rhea Ripley being in a situation where she is in fact main eventing. I think the issue is the storyline build. Now, we're just a couple of weeks away from WrestleMania. WWE can fix this. See, that's the thing. It's never too late to fix your storyline. Sometimes storylines have this issue, and I mentioned this quite a bit with Impact, AEW, and WWE. Sometimes you could start a storyline, you could start something, and maybe the direction that you're going with it just isn't working, but it's okay to pivot and take a sidestep and do something different with it. And I think that's actually what Triple H did with the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day and Vince McMahon, the vision, like the idea, the concept was good, but then like it wasn't really like molded into something better. And then as time went on, you saw that they pivoted They got Edge away from it. I mean, there was just so much that improved. And the best part is the Judgment Day after Edge, which, by the way, Hall of Fame, this guy is legendary, right? So by removing him from the situation, you have Finn Balor there. You have Dominic Mysterio and all these guys together. It ended up being so great that I think it's okay to pivot away from something when it's bad. Now, in this case, WWE can't pivot away completely from Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, but they can go a different direction with the storyline. And, whether that means turning Rhea Ripley into a babyface, yeah, it's an interesting choice considering that the Judgment Day are heels. But you never know. There's ways to make it work. There's things that you can do. There's things that you could think of to try to make this a little bit more enticing. And that is one of the downfalls. I've always said it's one of the downfalls to having a Royal Rumble match where you're guaranteed, the championship match at WrestleMania, because that in itself is the story, right? Rhea Ripley won the Royal Rumble. There you go. That's the story. But to make it super exciting, you have to do something a little bit different. And I think good guy versus bad guy in this situation, it's tough because people do want to reject Charlotte Flair, and I think people do want to accept Rhea Ripley. I think a lot of people are happy to see Rhea Ripley in the spotlight. I think a lot of people are proud to see how far she's come, and naturally, Charlotte Flair has just always been a better heel, right? Like, whether you like her or hate her, it doesn't really matter. She does thrive better in a heel scenario, and that's why I think going back to that decision of having Rhea Ripley going after Charlotte, it was an interesting choice, and maybe it was the wrong choice. And again, this is not 100% confirmed because nobody really knows what's going to actually happen. WWE hasn't confirmed anything, but regardless if WWE has the main event night one or not, it's really important that WWE really gets to a point where these women have a good storyline going through. I think Rhea Ripley and Charlotte are great. I like them. I think they're fantastic. I like Asuka and Bianca Belair. I think that match could be, night one, but even that match doesn't really have a really big story. WrestleMania main event, it should feel like a massive deal, and I'm all for the women main eventing, but I don't feel like any of these women storylines are that crazy good, despite the fact that my confidence with them is at an all-time high. I think when you look at Asuka and Bianca Belair, like, that's going to be incredible. You give them 20 minutes to wrestle, I think people will be really satisfied. If you gave Charlotte and Rhea Ripley 25 minutes plus to wrestle, I think people will be really satisfied. So the issue is the actual storytelling, the mission. What is the purpose of the match? And it's difficult to really understand how it's all going to go down. But I think WWE can fix it. It's never too late, but it just takes a little bit of time, and who knows? Maybe it's too late. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't think it's too late, but maybe it is. Maybe it is. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think.